Good morning, Sadibou. How are you?
Very good morning, Nick. I'm fine, thank you.
So thanks for your time and your will to share your expertise talking about football and emotional intelligence. Before to start, would you like to introduce yourself personally, professionally? The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Nick. It's an honor to be here, and I cannot express how happy I am to meet someone who's doing or who's engaged in a very sensitive issue as emotional intelligence. My name is Sadibou Kamaso. I am currently based in the Gambia, but I do travel around Europe and Africa as well. I call myself a football development enthusiast. I have been CEO of a football club back in the Gambia for about 13 years. I was also at one point a member of the Football Federation as a board member, where I served in the executive and also in the emergency committee. This was between 2018 to 2022. At the moment, I run my own business, which is printing, but football, I would say, is in my DNA. I mean, I live and breathe football, so I'm very much engaged in it. That's why I call myself a football development enthusiast. I also work with Sportlex Agency as a partner. They're based in Italy. We've managed to transfer a lot of players from Gambia to Europe, notably the likes of Musa Barrow, Ibrahim Akoli, Lamin Jallo, Ali Sow, players like that. So I've been working with my partner, Luigi, who's Italian, and this is what I'm currently doing, and that's the reason why I'm currently in Europe, in fact. In a nutshell, that's Sadibou, and I am involved in other issues that help develop football in the Gambia.
Thank you for your introduction, Sadibou. I see something I can share with our watchers as well. Sadibou, I thank you for your being humble. Sadibou is considered one of the most influential agents in the country. This is something, of course, you are a very grounded guy, but I see your influence in the country is huge. You're making an impact. This is what I sense.
Well, just trying, and that's why we're trying to build our network as much as possible, because we know we have a long way to go in terms of developing African football. And I think that was the reason why we were even able to meet at the African Football Business Summit, where you caught my attention. So I'm humbled by that, but we just keep going, and the commitment is there. So hopefully we can do a lot more in terms of developing football in my country.
Definitely we will. Definitely we will. Sadibou, I would say, so we are talking about football mainly today. And you dealt a lot with athletes that have been relocated, as you mentioned, in Europe, in Italy. So as an insider, what's your opinion on the importance of mindset management and emotional regulation?
Nick, the importance of mindset management and emotional intelligence regulations cannot be overemphasized. I have managed players for over a decade, and there were times we had to deal with issues that were related to emotions. And for us who were not experts in it, it was so difficult, because sometimes you're dealing with players who probably have their parents have divorced, or their parents are not together, or an abusive parent, and then they still come to training. You see a player who's performing at a high level, and all of a sudden there's a performance dip, and the coach probably puts them on the bench and tells you this kid is not serious anymore. He has started smoking. But when I met you, I thought this is something that I was looking for a long time, because I've never had the experience to deal with these players. It was difficult. So I think this is so important that every country, every club, every federation needs to deal with. I've had players who've been transferred to Europe, and they'll tell me, anytime I play, I can feel a pain in my knee. The doctors have checked it, and there's nothing wrong. But it was all in the mind. It was psychological. And those players now are playing at top level. And I talk to them, I ask them what has changed. Oh, I was talking to somebody who's helped me with this. So this is quite important. The importance cannot be overemphasized, Nick. That's why your presentation just caught my eye at the Africa Football Business Summit. To be honest, this is very, very important.
Thank you, Sadibou. Really appreciate your words, and they are motivational for what I do as well. As an expert, and with your experience as well, you have witnessed guys struggling not with the pitch, not with the ball, because I mean they technically, I'm sure they were very competitive, but how to manage my emotions when I'm in another continent, in another environment, when everything around me changes. The only thing that stayed the same is the size of the pitch, is the ball. The ball is the same, okay. But all the rest, the nutrition and the weather and teammates, culture, everything changes. How can I go with the flow? How can I develop maybe flexibility, adaptability? So, stressing this point, to what degree do you think that being emotionally intelligent for a player, it can be as the secret weapon? Like how influential can be in the holistic career, the ability to understand their emotion, the ability to regulate them in order to perform at peak?
Up there, Nick, high up there. Why I say this is because my partner and I are involved in transferring a lot of players from Gambia to Europe and other countries, Turkey. And sometimes they go there, the scouts who have seen them back in Gambia tell you he's different when he came here. Like you said, the food is different, the atmosphere is different, the weather, even the dressing room is different. They have that psychological issue that is affecting them and they have nobody to talk to about it. Even the players themselves sometimes don't understand that they should be able to speak to someone, because it affects them in such a way that it's inside. I sometimes I say it's like a mental pain, because someone told me once there's a physical pain and there's a mental pain. The physical, it's your knee or your head or your back. You can massage it or you could do, but the mental one just eats you up there, and then people look at you, they don't know what you're going through. So you're transferring players who are coming from a very underdeveloped league, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of the league as well. They're coming to a whole new level. How do they adapt to this? They need somebody who could talk to them to better make them understand the psychological effects of the changes that they are going to go through. The food would be different. The atmosphere would be different. The training would be different. And sometimes even the approach of the coach or the language. So when you start feeling down, there's someone who should have prepared you to say, listen, you're going somewhere, but it's a stark contrast from what you're living here. And it's not going to, because if you do not love what you're doing, it's difficult for you to be able to perform. So sometimes their performance dips because they are unable to adapt and there's nobody for them to talk to. Their parents don't understand this. The first people they probably call would be their dad or their mom to say, I'm here, the weather is changing, it's cold, or the coach doesn't like me, or they think my football is not at the same level. But those people cannot help. So this is where emotional intelligence, comes in, because if you're not able to understand the player's problem, you can't solve it. And what you do is you have an engagement, because it's not a one size fits all. You have an engagement with the player, and then from what they're saying, you're able to navigate through and see these are the solutions to it. So for me, it's there. It's really, really important, especially I know European players have these um, available to them, but African players need it quite often because they start at a very late age. So it's very important that this is exposed to them even before they transit to Europe, so they know how to adapt and adjust, because sometimes even when they come, they have all these huge salaries and it gets into their head and it goes the other way. So for me, Nick, it's an ongoing thing. It's not like a one-time meeting with your emotional intelligence coach and you're done. No, I think it's continuous.
Sadibou, I've seen you touched a few very important points. One is the pain, the spectrum of pain. I discussed it with a physiotherapist with more details, and he taught me, pain is physical, psychological, and emotional. And he said to me, physical, we fix everything. But we don't do psychological or emotional. We are a clinic.
Yeah.
So you made me think back about that conversation, and yeah, to analyze what is pain in details, it might be the key. Because as you said, from an emotional or a feeling, then you start feeling pain in your knee.
Yeah.
And super high professional are going to check you and say, listen, there is nothing wrong here. So the problem is not here, it's not in the physical one.
Yeah.
Another important point, this one I would like to stress a little bit more, is when a player go transferred to another continent or another country, and the first one they call his family. This is something even professionals, not sports related, when they have a problem, they call someone in the family they believe is the wisest. Like, yeah, I call my uncle because, yeah, he's a wise one. So the point is, it's good to express emotions. Now I step into the professionalism. What tools your uncle, your cousin, your dad can give you? Because he can even understand the problem. Okay, how can I help you? And of course, the previous generation, and I'm including my background as well, with all due respect, my parents as well, they didn't have the opportunity to study this typology of topics. So I understand the problem. What can we do? This is what means working with a coach or a sports psychologist. And I'm biased. I know I'm biased, but I can say it's crucial for them just to have someone to rely on. It doesn't mean that I'm going to call you every day. It doesn't mean that I'm going to need you on a regular basis. But if I do need you, I know I can pick up the phone and call the right number. Not just to talk, but to receive a toolkit to develop flexibility or patience or acceptance, or how to develop communication and improve communication with my coach mate or with the teammates. I'm thinking a case in which a guy moved to and he was suffering isolation because he was in a new environment. And my question was, what about relationship, social life? And he said, no, I'm not really bonding with the teammates. Generally, I stay home, I play video games. So isolation might lead the human being to lack social intelligence and social life. So this means intrinsically the performance is going to go south. And this is what the athlete doesn't want. The coach doesn't want. The agent doesn't want. Nobody wants it. So thanks again for generating this, interesting and insightful conversation.
Yeah, I mean, I just wanted to mention this. I remember there was a player back in the team that I was CEO, very good player. He was a winger. He was going through a lot and he couldn't talk about this because it was an embarrassing situation. His parents were not together anymore. Very quiet player. And at one point, I realized the coach wasn't playing him. I just asked him, I said, how come this player is not playing anymore? He said, oh, he comes to training anymore. He doesn't come to training on time and he's not concentrating. He started smoking. I said, well, have you talked to him? He said, oh, I spoke to him a number of times, but he's not listening. I'm not a psychologist, but I knew something was not right because I know the player. He was modest, quiet, and everything. So when I asked him to come to my office, he came. Even before we started the conversation, he started crying because, he holds me in very high esteem. And I allowed him to cry. I gave him a drink. I went out. I came back. And I said, don't worry, they didn't report you that you're misbehaving at the training ground. I just want to know what you're going through. I know what you're going through. I've been there. I made him feel comfortable, and then he started telling me that his parents are not together. And some of the stories he explained got me so emotional, but I am not a psychologist. What I told him was, I share your pain, I share your anguish, but I think we need a psychologist. He was asking me, but why a psychologist? To show you that even some of them don't even understand. So he was just thinking the best solution to this was to have his parents together. But that is their problem. You can't fix that. So you need to be okay. All I told him was, I remember a friend telling me there's sometimes in life when nothing matters except your head first before others. So I told him, you need to have a steady mind. Even if you want to fix your parents' relationship, you need to have a steady mind. Once your mind is steady, then you can do this. But if you start smoking, you're not going to training, you cannot play, how do you expect to become a professional to change their lives? That little conversation we had an effect. So imagine talking to, an emotional intelligence coach like you that gets deeper inside and be able to dissect and give them. So these are things that are really, really important. And a lot of African players go through this. They go through this and it's difficult for them. And there's nobody there, sadly, to talk to.
I'm grateful for sharing this story. Yeah, it's touching and something that happens very often, I'm understanding. I did grasp an important point. His coach, US, did you speak with him? And the coach said, yeah, I spoke with him. He was not listening.
Yeah, he just thought the player has just started moving with bad friends.
The point is not have you spoke with him, but did you listen to him? And this is what you did in your office. You created that space for him to feel secure psychologically and emotionally, where to open. This is something that the coaches, not the athletes anymore, but the coaches can gain through emotional intelligence. How can I interact with my athletes a little bit better? How can I understand them as humans? Not the player, but humans. Then, of course, another dynamic I'm seeing, this guy, he wanted to cope with the situation somehow. But the only tools was destructive tools, like smoking, hanging out with certain typology of friends, maybe drinking. It is a coping strategy. It's not the most suitable thinking at his career broadly. So again, what a professional does is bring in coping strategies that are more oriented to gain steadiness of mind. You just mentioned try to rationalize and differentiate what is in my control, what is not in my control. My parents' relationship is not. I cannot try to fix it.
Exactly.
So what can I do that is in my control sphere? This shift the focus from something that is painful, your parents' divorce, to something that is productive. Okay, how can I move on? Yeah. How can I cope with it without affecting in a negative way my career? I really thank you. There is a lot in this story. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Sadibou, what suggestion? We are going toward the end of this 20 minutes interview. What would be your suggestion to coaches, clubs, or federations, more broadly, on embracing this typology of training for their athletes and the non-players as well, like coaches and the team staff?
Nick, I believe this is sine qua non to the progress and development of the coach's career and their success. Because when they have this added to what they do, it adds value. Because you need to have the best out of your player for them to perform. We said this, you said already, the size of the pitch doesn't change, it's the same. The ball doesn't change. But situations change every day. So there's certain things they go through. They've lost, a dear one, or they've lost some money, or they've lost a family member, or anything. They're going through issues with their girlfriends. And they are able to deal with that together with the training. So the coaches should be in a position to understand, that the person's demeanor is changing and they need a one-on-one discussion. Because there could be a coincidence where you've dropped a player to the bench. Maybe at that time he's having issues with his girlfriend, but you think he's sulking because you've dropped him to the bench. And those two could coincide, and at that instance, it could be difficult for them to come back to their best. So coaches should be able to have a little bit of training and then also engage with, emotional intelligence coaches who could help them as well with the basics. Because once they have the basics, they would be able to tell the player, you need to talk to a person. Like I said, I told the player, you can't fix this by doing this. And I didn't even, that was just my instinct. Because I told him, I said, even in flights, they tell you when the cabin pressure is low, you need to put your own mask on before you could put your baby's mask on, because you need to be okay for us to look after someone. So for coaches too, they could also be having emotional issues. They could also be going through the same problems like the player. So it will be difficult for them to be dealing with the player and their own issues because they're also human. And that is why they also need an emotional intelligence coach, even if it is in their backroom staff or someone they talk to, one-on-one at times. When you're down or you're low, you have an emotional intelligence coach that helps you. Because not only the players would go through this, even the coaches themselves. So imagine a coach is going through emotional challenges and then he has a player who's having the same issue. So it's going to be a clash. So I strongly suggest even the executive members, the CEOs, the people who run football, I could be having my own problems. If I was having my problems at the time and I have a player invited to talk to him and he tells me this, I probably approach it the wrong way because I don't have the skills. But an emotional intelligence coach has the skills. No matter what they go through, like doctors, they know how to deal with this. So this is something that even the coaches need to do a bit of training. I'm not sure what the criteria is to do, some of their coaching licenses, but this is something that would help a lot of. I know of players that during the COVID, the whole thing took, a huge toll on them that they've not been the same again. So this is something that even the coaches need to do a bit of training or have someone, not just a psychologist, but a sports psychologist, because they need to understand the sports aspect of it to be able to match the two to give the best results.
Great points. Sadibou, great points. And I totally agree. Everything starts with us. When we are feeling good, we become the instrument for others to feel good.
Yep.
Whatever job we do, whatever role we have, it might be an executive, a CEO, a coach, an athlete, having this typology of invisible experts behind them, it can empower them massively to enhance their expertise and ultimately their performance on the pitch.
Certainly.
Sadibou, thanks a lot for your time, and it's been a very nice conversation. Yeah, we touched the emotions, we touched a variety of very important topics, and I thank you for your time. Yeah, I really appreciate it.
It's such a pleasure being here, Nick. I mean, I can't express how happy I am coming across someone who's an emotional intelligence coach, having dealt with so many players. So this for me is spot on. It's spot on. Keep doing what you do.
And let's do it together. I mean, the meaning of being humans is to cooperate for the bigger community's goodness and development.
Certainly.
So I'll be super happy. I mean, we are in touch. I don't want to say let's keep in touch because we are in touch. And yeah, I wish you a good continuation of your day. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you.